Hey y'all, welcome to today's video. This is one focused on fragrances that are popular or hyped up. It can be on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, maybe even word of mouth. So this is the fifth video, I think, in this series. I will link a playlist in the description box for you if you're interested in checking out the first four. It's a way for me to share with you my thoughts on fragrances that are sort of making the rounds and whether I think they are worthy of a full bottle purchase. If you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I love to purchase fragrance, makeup, and other things too, but we're talking about fragrance on this video. And fragrances aren't inexpensive, so it's nice to sample them first when you can. I have mixed opinions about sampling, as I've mentioned in other videos. Sampling can be a really good thing in that you might smell something and go, I don't really need that, even though you feel like you've been lusting after it for a while. And then on the other hand, I firmly believe samples can sometimes not give you a real impression of what a fragrance is like when you might have worn it. I'll give you a good example of that. Absolute Aphrodisiac from Initio is one that I sampled through a decant. And I thought, this is nice, but I don't think that I need it. It's not that special. And one day I saw it on deep discount, purchased it, sprayed myself down and thought, oh, oh, it's very different when you spray from a bottle than from a sample. But nonetheless, sampling is a way to give us an idea of what a fragrance is like and if we'd want to try it for real or not. So with that in mind, that's my little disclaimer for you all. I have about 20 here for you. And if you're interested in knowing where you can purchase decants online, go to Google and just type in fragrance or perfume, decants or samples and see what sites pop up. There are a lot out there. I personally like Decant X because they have nice sized decants that you get, and you can also try Scent Split, Lucky Scent, and a bunch of others. There's a bunch of them you can go check out on Google, but let's jump into these sample reviews. The way that I've done these in previous videos is I give you the name of the fragrance. I tell you whether I think it's a mass appealing fragrance, meaning would the public in general like this? Is this something that a lot of folks would dig in some way or another? I tell you what my initial impressions are of it, meaning like what does it smell like to me without knowing the notes that are in it? How do I think it performed? Again, based on like a little sample on a little circle on a small part of my skin. So we understand that, right? And then, is it something that I think I'm interested in purchasing or not? So we're going to start off with Oriana. Let me first say that this bottle is very appealing. And I will also say I don't own any Parfums de Marly fragrances at the moment. We can talk about why another time. I've got my eye on Eau Jaune. That is a beautiful one. I have a dupe of that I'm making my way through. And I'm also watching my favorite discount sites to see when it goes on sale for a price that I am willing to pay. So that is number one on my Parfums de Marly wish list. But I have to say, Oriana, well, let me stick to the plan here. Is it mass appealing? I have in capital letters a big fat yes. This is a very mass appealing fragrance, particularly for those of us that like a light, fluffy, sweet, very feminine scent. The bottle gives you an idea of just how feminine it is. And the notes that I have, I'm looking down at my spreadsheet, is that it's a lot like Love, Don't Be Shy. But for me, it feels like that fragrance even fluffier and maybe a little bit sweeter as well. And so I thought that it was moderate all around when I tested it in terms of projection and longevity. And would I want a full bottle? I'm going to say yes. And I'm surprised because I would have thought, based on reviews of this fragrance, that it was weak, underperforming, too much like Love, Don't Be Shy, that I would not appreciate it. But I found it to be a very special little sample that I tried. And so this is on my wish list. And this one has been already on discount sites and so forth. So we'll keep an eye open for that one. Next, we'll go to Sundowner from Andy Tower. That is the fragrance house that made, I'm going to not say this right, L'air du Désert Marocain. I tried, which is a fragrance that I have sampled and I do like, but I didn't purchase. I didn't like it enough to purchase it. So Sundowner has been getting a bit of hype here on YouTube. Do I think this fragrance is mass appealing? No, in capital letters with an exclamation point. I found this fragrance to be earthy, spicy. It felt to me like a very wet tobacco in the dry down. And I found that the projection and the longevity were moderate to maybe a little bit strong strong all around. In terms of what I want to purchase this, I'm going to say no, but that's only because I do have a lot of tobacco-based fragrances in my collection that I'm really enjoying right now. In fact, I probably have too many and need to cull the collection there. But Sundowner is a nice fragrance. It has a very powerful sort of pungent opening that can be a little bit difficult to get past. But once it settled down, I thought it was a nice wet tobacco for me. Now, I'd love to hear your impressions and whether you thought it was a wet tobacco or dry or whatever. But anyway, an earthy, lovely fragrance if you're into that kind of scent profile. I don't need this in my collection right now, but if you were interested in something like that, I would say thumbs up. Next, I'm going to go to a fragrance that has intrigued me for a bit of time. It's called Sandalsun and it's by Hermetica. I don't own anything from this company. I'm intrigued by the bottle shape and colors. Is this mass appealing? I'm going to say no, that it's not. My description is, it smelled to me, hang with me here. It smelled to me like toast bread right after you toast it. You haven't put anything on it yet. That's what the opening gave me. As it started to settle, I got crushed walnuts and a salty almond butter. I found it woody and also buttery as a fragrance. To me, this was a fragrance that felt very close and moderate in terms of projection and longevity, certainly not in the beast mode category or anything close to that. And then in terms of whether I think I would want it, I have maybe. It's a pretty bottle. It's one that I would definitely want to sample again because there were aspects of it that reminded me a little bit of Orchid Soleil, which is one that I have for sale on Mercari. Or did I sell it yet? I don't remember. Anyway, that fragrance, there were aspects of it that I liked and other parts that I didn't. So Sandalsun kind of gave me a similar vibe, and it's one that I would want to try again, but I have a big maybe on that one. The next two are from the Armani Prive line, which is a line I've become super interested in. I tried Blue Turquoise, which is on my wish list, and I think one other that I can't remember. Rose d'Araby. The rose one. I really like that one also. I recently picked up Vert Malachite for myself, and then my husband purchased Rouge Malachite for me for Christmas. So those are officially in my collection, and I love both of those. These next two I've been interested in also. So the first one is Gardenia Antigua. I have to say this one really impressed me. I was very well prepared to think that it was boring. I've got a lot of white florals in my collection, including a lot of tuberose and gardenia and magnolia types of fragrances. And so I was thoroughly prepared to go. I'm sure this is going to be another, white floral that smells like other things I have in my collection. Well, it did and it didn't. So in terms of it being mass appealing, I would say yes. My description is that it's a floral gardenia, magnolia type of fragrance on steroids. I got a creamy soapiness out of this, and I found it to be slightly musky, and it like low-key blew me away how pretty it was. And so I found this one to be close to your skin in terms of projection. So know that if you're looking for fragrances that are, widely smelled around you and make an entrance in a room, I don't know that this is going to be that fragrance for you. In terms of what I purchased it, I actually said yes. So this is one that's going to be added to my watch list to see when it shows up on sale on a discount site or something like that. And I love the name Gardenia Antigua, or Antigua, I guess. Antigua, like the island. I don't know why I'm saying Antigua. Anyhow, very, very pretty fragrance if you are into the feminine white floral types. I really like this a lot, so thumbs up. And then the second one from this line that I sampled recently is called Iris. I think this is pronounced, or I'm going to pronounce it, Celadon. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Iris Celadon. Mass appealing? No. But this was an interesting one. So the opening of this I thought was very fresh and very soft, like a subtle, fresh, soft opening. It felt very iris and suede to me, like a soft, buttery, smooth suede. And I think there's some sort of patchouli and spice, like a cardamom in this fragrance. Very soft and subtle in the background. Overall, this was moderate all around. And in terms of whether I would want it, I put maybe yes, question mark. It's one that I would want to revisit again because of that soft, suede, irisy type of thing. This fragrance reminds me, my best description is when you're driving and you first drive out in the morning, sun's coming up, and you see this mist over, say, a field, like a green field. There's something really sort of ethereal and light and sort of just wispy about it. That's what this fragrance, the impression that it gave me. So I found it intriguing in that sense. Next, we go to two fragrances from a house that I have a lot of fragrances from, Tiziana Terenzi. I think I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 or 14 fragrances. Really, really enjoy a lot of their creations. Here are two that I have been lusting after. The first one is Al Contrario, and this is a fragrance that has been touted as this really soft, subtle, sweet, gourmand fragrance that's great for early fall. And so mass appealing, I put maybe, I wasn't sure. It smelled to me, yes, sweet, very sweet. It came across like snickerdoodles. Have you had snickerdoodles? I'm talking about the cookies. They're like butter cookies that you sprinkle cinnamon and sugar and maybe, you know, some brown sugar on as well. Definitely a vanilla fragrance. I felt like there were some pale, creamy florals in the background of this. What I didn't care for in this fragrance, first of all, there are several styles of bottle from Tiziana Terenzi. Some of them are pretty dramatic, like the Sea Stars collection. This bottle shape, which is square, is probably the most boring of the shapes for me. I don't really love the way that looks like aesthetically. I have a few of them. I found this to be a very light fragrance all around. It was really too gentle for me. I don't mind a gentle fragrance. For example, I wore Satine from Lalique this week. Lovely, really nice and subtle and like very light on the skin. This one felt like it was disappearing quickly, like it was maybe too gentle. And so would I want this? I'm going to say no. I found it too light of a fragrance for my own personal taste and not unique enough in terms of the scent to warrant me purchasing this. The second Tiziana Terenzi fragrance is Dionisio, which is one that I have been looking at since probably before I started my channel. I heard about this one through a Facebook group, and there was a woman there that just raved and raved about how much she thought this was the best vanilla like of all time. So do I think this is mass appealing? No. And I'm really, really hoping there was something wrong with my sample, because that can happen sometimes too. This This fragrance is known for having like a stinky cheese smell for a little bit, and then that supposedly dies down. I know some of you are out there going, well, why would anybody want to smell like that? Well, I don't have an answer for you, except that sometimes we can suffer past a stinky opening to get to a really beautiful mid and dry down. Depends on you and your tolerance for that. But as far as this goes, the opening, all I wrote down was vanilla and gasoline. Vanilla and gasoline. So look, y'all, some of y'all like that sort of diesel gasoline-y kind of smell that you get at a gas station. If you like that, this one might be for you. I felt like there were hints of this trying to be a gourmand leaning fragrance, like trying to be sweet, trying to be edible. But in terms of the projection and sillage, what I wrote down literally was, who cares? Question mark, because that gasoline opening was so distracting for me that I just didn't want to know anything more about this. And in terms of whether I would purchase this, I wrote in capital letters, nope, that I was so disappointed when I tried this fragrance. Again, I'm always willing to come back to something and give it another try. Maybe I just had a bad experience. Maybe I was tired and grouchy when I tried something. Maybe I got a bad sample. You never know. And the fact that some people rave about this so much makes me want to try it again. Like, how come I didn't like this? But I just didn't. And so that's my comment on Dionisio. And I'm glad that I did not blind buy this one, because right now this one is close to the $200 range, like somewhere between $150 and $200 on discount sites. And, you know, I just don't want to blow that on something that I'm absolutely going to dislike. Next, we go to Phantasma from Liquid Imaginaires. I really haven't heard this fragrance being talked about, but Liquid Imaginaires is certainly making the rounds, at least on Instagram and some of the niche YouTube channels. So I wanted to try something from them. In fact, I think I maybe have one more from them in this lineup. But Phantasma, do I think this is a mass appealing fragrance? Maybe. So it really depends on the person. My comments on this, metallic is the first word that comes to mind. It was also musky and powdery for me, irisy. There was something really aromatic, like it was herbaceous, if you will, for me. It reminded me, and maybe it's the name leading me to think this, right? Having an influence over the imagery that comes to mind for me. This reminded me of cool, misty air, maybe even more so than that Iris Celadon that I mentioned before. And I wrote the word ghostly, exclamation point, again. Phantasma, ghostly. I mean, no shocker that there's the association there, but there was something very sort of extraterrestrial or beyond this world for me about this fragrance. The sillage, projection, and all of that were moderate all around in my impression. And would I want a bottle of this? I wrote yes with an exclamation point. This is I put it in like a bizarre category fragrance. So definitely not something that would be mass appealing. In fact, I think a lot of people would smell this and go, what is this? But there was something really intriguing about this fragrance for me because of that like ghostly, metallic, really like very strange, peculiar, reminded me of like what I think the inside of a futuristic rocket ship might look like, right? Like all metallic in there with some herby something being pumped through for fragrance smell, right? I don't know. Yeah, I'll just leave it. I know that sounds weird. Phantasma is a thumbs up for me. Next, I'm going to go to X from Clive Christian. This I don't think is making the rounds as much now. It definitely had a moment, maybe like a year ago or something like that. But I think this is still regarded as like a popular, high-end, luxurious woman's fragrance. So is this a mass appealing fragrance? Yes, I do think that it is. My description of it is that it's fruity and musky. I have to be honest though, this felt rather indistinct to me compared to other fruity, musky fragrances that are out on the market right now. And this carries a pretty price tag. Okay, this is definitely not a fragrance that you would blind buy or just buy on a whim. It's pricey. The projection and longevity were moderate to strong on this fragrance all around. And in terms of whether I would buy it, I wrote just a definitive no. In fact, it was actually nope, which is even more rude than just a regular no. Yeah. So I found this to be not special for the price that it commands. And I don't really ever see this on sale anywhere. So this is a hard pass for me. Next, I hope I pronounced this correctly. Eau du Serail or Serail or Serail. Serail. Let's go with Serail. Eau du Serail from Naomi Goodsir. This is a house that I have not tried before and have been hearing really great things about. And I think I have some other samples somewhere in an order from long ago that I need to go ahead and try as well. So this is not a mass appealing fragrance by any means, I don't think. I found it very fruity. And I wrote down winey, like wine. I realize winey is not a word, but it reminds me a lot of the way that red wine smells is how this, the way that red wine tastes is how this smells. I think it has some honey and berries in it and some florals as well. It was a little strange, but definitely a unique fragrance. I found it moderate to strong all around in terms of projection and longevity. And would I want a bottle? I said it's not for me, but I found it really interesting and refreshing in its uniqueness. You know, when you try so many fragrances, I can't even count the number I've tried. It's got to be in the, I don't even know, I don't want to guess, a lot of fragrances. It's really hard to come across something that is different from everything else that you've tried that stands out. So this is one that stood out, even though I don't think I would care for a bottle myself, but really nice. And the kind of thing, like if it was gifted to me, I would, you know, I'd probably wear it, but I just wouldn't be running out to purchase a bottle of this. But try it. It's absolutely beautiful and unique. Then we come across a very hyped fragrance, especially this fall as we went into winter, and it's Awake by Akro. I did a coffee fragrance video in, I think it was September of last year, and a lot of people mentioned this fragrance. I've been holding on to this sample for eons, and I don't know why I've tried it. In fact, I've had several samples. I think some friends have sent me some, and I went and purchased one anyway. I don't think this is a mass appealing fragrance. I will say this about Awake. If you want to smell like coffee, coffee is what you're going to get here. This is an incredibly realistic, very dark coffee. It's not coffee with sweetness. There's no sugar. There's no creamer. There's nothing. There's just straight up dark brewed coffee, period. That's what you get with this fragrance. So if that appeals to you and you want to smell like that, maybe you're studying late at night and want the smell of coffee to keep you up, try Awake. I think it's moderate all around in terms of the projection and longevity. And I can only speak for myself. I don't think I want a bottle of this. It was entirely too literal. There wasn't any chaser. There was nothing to cut it. It was just straight up coffee. Now, my favorite coffee fragrance is Coffee Addict from Theodoros Kalatinas. I have that, and I have a bunch of other fragrances that have nice coffee notes in them, and I'm good with that. I don't need another one, at least for right now, at least not this literal. So this is a pass for me, but if that's what you're looking for, this is the one for you. Okay, this one is from Electimuss. It's called Patchouli of the Underworld. What a fantastic name, and what an appropriate name for this. Mass appealing? Absolutely not. No capital letters with an exclamation point. If you've ever tried from Kilian, the fragrance called Dark Lord, which my husband has a bottle of, and I love it on him. It's like a rugged, leathery cowboy smell. Really sort of earthy, leathery, leather. Patchouli of the Underworld is like Dark Lord on mega steroids. I found this to be a smooth patchouli leather bomb in like capital letters with flashing lights. This was, in terms of the projection and longevity, beastly to me. Definitely like out to here, and people are going to smell you all around and for a long time. Would I want a bottle of this? Here's the tricky thing. I wrote in capital letters, yes, lots of S's. The problem is, I don't know that I would want it for myself. It's a lot. It's a big fragrance, and it very much leans in the masculine direction, like by far, right? It's nowhere near unisex, I wouldn't call it. So I asked my husband if he'd be interested. I had him sample it. Man, did it smell amazing on him. Very sexy. Mucho sexy on him. What the hell am I talking about? It was sexy, but he didn't care for it that much. He was like, it's okay. I don't know. So I'm not going to spend the money on an Electimuss fragrance. Yes, these are showing up on sale more and more if he's not going to wear it. But let me tell you, y'all friends, if you like patchouli, if you like a masculine leaning patchouli, this is the one. Patchouli of the Underworld. What a name. I come next to Centaur Blanc from Van Cleef & Arpels. This is a line of fragrances that I have had trouble with because a lot of them are just, they're pretty. They're really, really pretty. They're just so soft, and the longevity on them is just terrible. Let's be clear. They don't really last a long time. So I've just had a hard time actually purchasing one, but for some reason I'm drawn to like the bottle design. I'm drawn to the aesthetic of it, even though they're not long lasting. So this is Centaur Blanc. Another one that's pretty popular on YouTube, I would say. I found this to be a very soft, musky sandalwood. As it dried down, it got pretty woody on me. I didn't even put anything in the projection and longevity / sillage column. Like it's non-existent. It was so soft, I didn't even want to bother to like rate it. And so would I want a bottle? I said no. I have others that are similar. This reminded me a lot of Santal Vanille from Seven Virtues. Although Santal Vanille is a fairly strong fragrance that's long lasting, I'll just stick with that. I don't want to pick up fragrances that are similar to ones that I already have in my collection unless they perform better, they have a prettier bottle. There's just something about it that's got to draw me more to that fragrance than the one that I have. So this is a pretty easy pass for me. If you like a soft sandalwoody kind of fragrance, maybe try this out, okay? It is pretty. Then I can't really say that this fragrance is hyped up anywhere. I just want to talk about it, okay? So can I have one in here that really isn't popular, but I think maybe should get popular? Chemise Blanche. Pronunciation, work with me. Chemise Blanche. Not a mass appealing fragrance. It gets a no in that category. My description of this fragrance is it is clean, soapy, and I wrote this word, smooth. Smooth. It's very smooth, soft. It's delicate. It reminds me of something white, like lacy-ish, musky. Really beautiful fragrance. This one surprised me. I didn't put anything in the longevity projection column. I don't know why. Maybe I was just so taken aback by the fragrance, because I wrote yes, like an absolute yes for this fragrance as one that I would like. I also found this to be fairly unique in terms of the fragrances that I've tried recently. There was just something really, really pretty and appealing and gentle, like gentle, soapy, soft, musky, pretty, something or other to me about this that I fell in love with. So this is a big yes for me. The second liquid Imaginaires fragrance that I wanted to mention, because I've been wanting to try this one for a while. It's called Desert Suave. Who doesn't love that name? Desert Suave. The fragrance is sweet. It's floral. It's spicy. I found it very woody. It was moderate all around in terms of how it wears on your skin and projects. And I just put strong maybe in terms of whether I would want a bottle or not. So this is one that I am really glad that I sampled. I've been looking at that one for a long time. It went through like a hype phase, I would say maybe 6-ish months ago. And I was adding to cart, taking out of cart, that type of thing with this one. Glad that I have passed, but it's one that I definitely want to revisit because I did think it was interesting. By that point, I had tried a lot of fragrances and just wasn't sure if it was one for me. Then we go to Duquesa is it by Gritty, I think. So is this mass appealing? Yes. Let's just be clear about this. What did I smell? Cherry. Lots of cherry, at least in the opening. I think the cherry calms down as the fragrance settles on your skin. A very nutty fragrance. I thought it was musky, and I picked up a suede-like accord in this fragrance. I thought that overall this was fairly soft. It opened like boom. It opened like, imagine you're going to meet a lady for a date, and she shows up like decked out, beautiful. And she struts into the restaurant or wherever you're meeting her. Maybe she's coming out of her house if you're gentlemanly enough to go pick her up. And she just looks like $1,000,000, you know, like, ooh, this lady's got her stuff together. That's what this fragrance kind of reminded me of, you know, and then as the night goes on, maybe her lipstick fades a little bit. She becomes a little bit more human, but she's still pretty. But like that va-va-voom factor kind of dies down a notch. That's what this fragrance was giving me. But let me tell you, this one's a beautiful one. I'm going to say no in terms of myself purchasing one, because for me, I need a little bit more in terms of the performance. This one kind of settled down pretty quickly if I'm going to pay Duquesa prices. Okay, this is not an inexpensive fragrance, but let me tell you, it's a gorgeous fragrance. All the people out here hyping it up, they're not lying to us. 2 Rosendo Mateus. So we know number 5 is that girl that everybody's raved about. Yes, I have a bottle and I've joked about how she's been overhyped, although it's a really great fragrance. And I have number 6, which is beautiful too. I've been wanting to try out the line, so I ordered number 2 and number 3. Starting with number 3. Is it mass appealing? No, I don't think that it is. This is one that I found to be a light, bright, musky, floral fragrance with a heavy emphasis on an iris note or something like that. I found this to be sophisticated, and elegant on the dry down. It really appealed to me, but because it's like an irisy kind of a fragrance, I don't know that it's a mass appealing one. I found it to be moderate all around in terms of projection and longevity. And do I want a bottle? I said maybe. I'm not rushing to buy it, but it's definitely lovely and it's on like the watch list. So for example, if I end up rotating out an irisy kind of a fragrance, this is one that I would consider putting in its place. Really a nice, nice fragrance. Let me tell you, Rosendo Mateu, the line in general, good stuff. So number 2, yes, that one is a mass appealing fragrance in my opinion. It was I think heavy on the citrus factor there. It was suedey. I found it to be bright, floral, soft. All of the Mateo fragrances, to me, once you get past, sometimes they'll have like an opening that'll be like, whoa. Once you get past that, I find them to be all very soft fragrances. And I mean soft in terms of the feel, not the longevity, right? They just feel like, I don't know, there's something like buttery and fuzzy and soft about them. That kind of a thing, like texture-wise. Anyhow, this was also moderate all around. I don't think that I want a bottle of this because I have other fragrances that give me that same kind of feeling. But if I didn't, this would be high on the list. This was very pretty. I just don't need it right now, but it's a lovely, lovely fragrance. Then we go to Paragon, the new Initio fragrance. Love the white bottle. I have Musk Therapy, which is also a white bottle, really pretty. This one is very aromatic and fresh. Aromatic and fresh. Like it gives you that spa feeling, However, I do have to say that it leans masculine to me. So it's one that I think would be fabulous for my husband. I love masculine fragrances too, let's be clear, but I have so many. I don't really need more masculine leaning fragrances if it's not particularly noteworthy. This is one that I found to be fairly strong all around. And in terms of purchasing, maybe for my husband and maybe in the future, he has some others like this. It gave me hints of, hang with me here, the aromatic aspect, only the aromatic part of Naxos from Xerjoff, which my husband has also. Not the honey and tobacco parts, but like that aromatic lavender-esque feeling that you get from Naxos. Really nice, smooth fragrance Paragon is, but I don't need it. And then I'm going to end with one that I think has blown a lot of people away, and with good reason. It's called Cherry Punk. Y'all, if you don't have a cherry fragrance in your collection, and if you want a powerhouse cherry, this might be one that you look at. In terms of being mass appealing, I said maybe because cherry is one of those notes you're either into it and digging it, or you're not. And it's the accompanying notes here that I think would make this a bit much for a lot of people. I describe this as lost cherry with a bunch of extra edge to it. Very edgy. It's a little leathery too. So it's got leather aspects, it's cherry, it's really in your face kind of a thing. You know what? It's like if Spirito Fiorentino, if you've tried that from Tiziana Terenzi. Imagine if that and Lost Cherry commingled. You might get something like Cherry Punk. Really breathtaking, I would say, when you first try it. Like, whoa, this is good stuff. So it was strong all around. No issues with projection and performance overall. In terms of would I buy a bottle for now only, I'm going to say no. But when my Lost Cherry runs out, this might be the one to replace it. I'm not sure. I can't even believe I said that out loud, but this is a really good fragrance. So it's a strong yes for those of you looking for a powerhouse, you know, punchy, cherry punk punchy. That was cheesy. Kind of fragrance. This might be a good one for you. Really, really fantastic. And big shout out to my girl Nadine in Sweden. Hey girl, hey, for suggesting that I try this fragrance. There you go. 20. I would say this as a speed review, but I have a feeling by the time I edit this video, it's going to be 30 minutes or longer. We'll see. But thanks for hanging around. If you have stuck around this long, you are a real one, as my friend Richard would say. Richard Keycott, go check him out. Richard Keycott is having a scent memory. Fun channel. Anyway, y'all, take care. Have a great one. Remember, if you want to see the others in this series, the playlist will be linked below in the description box. Mwah! See you in the next one. Take care.